All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going to fundamentally shift your approach to what is arguably one of the most high-stakes environments in the entire tech world, the system design interview. If you've ever stood there staring blankly at a whiteboard while a senior engineer asks you to design a massive global platform and you just feel the markers slowly drying out in your hand, well, you know exactly how daunting this can feel. But today, we're going to completely rewire how you tackle these challenges. So many candidates walk into that room literally paralyzed. They think they need to design a flawless, globally scaled, massively complex system from absolute scratch in just 60 minutes. But listen to me, that is a dangerous misconception. No one, and I mean no one, expects you to build Google in an hour. It takes hundreds of engineers, thousands of hours to build systems like that.
So to get you where you actually need to be, here's our roadmap. We'll start by decoding the interview myth, walk through a precise 45-minute master plan, learn how to filter ambiguity, build the high-level blueprint, execute component deep dives, and finally, master the architect's behavioral matrix. Basically, we're going to transition your mindset from a panicked coder into a strategic, confident architect.
Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1, decoding the interview myth and discovering the true signal. The reality here isn't about deploying some terrifyingly complex web of microservices right on the spot. The actual reality of the interview environment? It's just two people at a whiteboard having a simulated collaboration on an open-ended problem. It's a conversation, really. A partnership. Look at this stark contrast between the noise and the actual signal. Candidates get so lost in the noise of design purity, desperately chasing the perfect technical answer. But interviewers aren't grading you on perfection. They're evaluating the signal. They want to know, how do you handle pressure? Can you resolve ambiguity constructively? Are you asking good questions? And can you defend your design choices without getting defensive?
Which brings us to a really critical warning. You have got to avoid the disease of over-engineering at all costs. Some engineers delight in design purity while completely ignoring real-world trade-offs. It's like they want to build a spaceship when a bicycle is all that's needed. Narrow-mindedness and stubbornness here? Immediate disqualifiers. Companies pay a huge price for over-engineered systems, so focusing on pure complexity without considering business constraints is a massive red flag.
So, the takeaway here is to firmly reject Profile A, the eager engineer. That's the candidate who treats the prompt like a trivia contest, jumps straight to a final design, and starts answering immediately. Trust me, speed gets you absolutely 0 bonus points here. Instead, you need to embrace Profile B, the architect mindset. The architect slows down. They ask the right questions. They make assumptions, write them down, and gather all their intel first.
Moving right along to Section 2, the 45-minute master plan. This is all about pacing your collaboration.
Here is your clock management strategy. A typical 45-minute window breaks down into 4 heavily structured phases. The first 10 minutes, strictly for scoping the problem. Then, up to the 25-minute mark, you're proposing your high-level design and getting buy-in. From minute 25 to 40, you dive deep into specific components. And finally, you save those last 5 minutes to wrap up, talk about scaling, and identify bottlenecks. Sticking to this pacing is absolutely crucial so you don't run out of time on the things that actually matter.
That leads us perfectly into Section 3, filtering ambiguity and scoping. Let's talk about those critical first 10 minutes. Think of this process like a funnel. The interviewer throws a super vague prompt at you, something like design product X. Your job is to filter that chaos down by asking really targeted questions about the features, the users, the anticipated scale, the existing tech stack. You squeeze that vague cloud through the funnel until you have a scoped, manageable system architecture popping out the bottom. Oh, and a great rule of thumb. If the interviewer asks you to make your own assumptions, write them on the whiteboard immediately. You're definitely going to need them later.
To put that into perspective, let's look at a practical example. If you were asked to design a news feed system, your initial scoping should generate a very specific set of constraints, just like these, before you draw a single box. Are we building for mobile, web, or both? Is the max network size 500 or 5,000? Are we handling 10,000 or 10 million daily active users? Getting these exact answers dictates literally everything about your eventual design.
Okay, Section 4, building the high-level blueprint and securing interviewer buy-in. Instead of just drawing aimlessly and crossing your fingers that you're on the right track, use this 4-step collaboration loop. It keeps you and your interviewer perfectly aligned. First, you draw the box diagram, mapping out clients, load balancers, APIs, databases. Second, you run concrete use cases through those boxes to uncover any hidden edge cases. Third, you do some back-of-the-envelope math to prove your blueprint actually fits the scale we just discussed. And fourth, this is key, ask for feedback. Treat the interviewer like your teammate.
See how we're dividing the design into distinct functional flows? Organizing your complex system like this proves your seniority. No spaghetti monsters of boxes allowed. For a news feed, maybe you have flow A just for feed publishing, user to load balancer to web server to database. Then a totally separate flow B for news feed building, aggregating posts, sorting them, and delivering them. This kind of logical separation is exactly what senior engineers do on the job.
Let's jump into Section 5, Component Deep Dives and Scaling, where we hunt for the bottlenecks. Now, you want to work with your interviewer to apply a metaphorical magnifying glass to the most critical bottlenecks. Remember, every interview is different, so you're not detailing every single box. You might deep dive into a specific hash function for a URL shortener, or maybe you'll focus entirely on slashing latency for a chat system. Your focus here should heavily be on CPU, memory, I/O, and latency for the most stressful parts of your design. But please, heed this warning. Time is your absolute most precious resource. You have to stop getting carried away with minute mathematical details. Do not waste 15 minutes explaining the exact mathematical mechanics of an isolated algorithm like Facebook's EdgeRank. It gives zero signal on your ability to build scalable systems. Instead, you've got to go straight to focusing on how components interact, how they scale, and crucially, how they fail under load. Prove you can design the structure. In the final minutes of the deep dive, you can leave an incredibly strong senior-level impression by proactively stress-testing your own design. Never say your system is perfect. Point out exactly where it breaks down under pressure. Talk about your error handling, what actually happens during a catastrophic network loss. Explain how you'd monitor the error logs. And finally, map out the next scale curve. If your design supports 1 million users today, what architectural shifts are needed to handle 10 million tomorrow? That right there is what separates a junior coder from a staff-level architect. And finally, Section 6, the architect's behavioral matrix. This is all about managing those vital signals. Your specific human behaviors in that room will either give them the collaborative signals they desperately want, or they will raise massive red flags that ruin your chances. Generating a positive signal means asking for clarification, bouncing ideas around, and suggesting multiple approaches before committing. Generating red flags, that means jumping straight to a solution, thinking in prolonged dead silence, or assuming the interview is over just because you finished drawing a few boxes. Ultimately, you are building a scaffolding together. You must clarify relentlessly, because honestly, there is rarely one single right answer, only a system built for specific constraints. You must manage the clock systematically, and you must communicate openly, asking for feedback early and often. You build alongside your interviewer, not just for them.
Never forget this core principle. The system design interview is a collaborative simulation. It is not a pop quiz with a memorized answer key. The interviewer is really just trying to figure out what it would genuinely be like to have you on their team, grabbing a coffee and tackling a tough problem on a random Tuesday afternoon.
So, as you gear up for your next big whiteboard session, you have to ask yourself, are you going to walk in there with that eager engineer mindset, stressing over building some perfect system? Or are you going to bring the architect mindset, embrace the collaboration, and generate the ultimate signal? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and good luck out there.